Rival rock managers in Los Angeles panicked when they realized Mötley Crüe was about to self-destruct for good. It was late 1989, and the biggest heavy metal band on the planet was standing right at the edge of a total abyss. Behind the multi-platinum albums and sold-out stadiums, heavy drug addiction, bitter hatred, and violent fights had torn the group apart. Bass player Nikki Sixx had already died of an overdose 2 years prior, only to be brought back by paramedics with adrenaline. Yet surviving death wasn't enough to stop the internal warfare raging between singer Vince Neil and guitarist Mick Mars. The tension finally reached a boiling point backstage during the massive Moscow Music Peace Festival in August of 1989. Instead of celebrating global heavy metal unity, the band members refused to even ride in the same tour bus or speak to each other. Drummer Tommy Lee was dealing with his own chaotic personal life, constantly fueling the fire with wild pranks and non-stop partying. Record executives at Elektra Records held their breath, fearing the multi-million-dollar Golden Goose was about to collapse overnight. The pressure was astronomical because their next record had to follow up the monster success of their album, Girls, Girls, Girls. Enter producer Bob Rock, a visionary who walked into their rehearsal studio and delivered a harsh, unfiltered reality check. Bob Rock told them straight to their faces that they couldn't write, couldn't play tightly together anymore, and sounded like a sloppy garage band. Instead of punching him out, something miraculous happened. The members of Mötley Crüe actually listened to the criticism. They checked into Little Mountain Sound Studios in Vancouver, completely cutting themselves off from the toxic Hollywood scene. Bob Rock forced Tommy Lee to take drum lessons for weeks, stripping away his bad habits and rebuilding his technique from scratch. He pushed Vince Neil to find a deeper, more emotional grit in his voice, turning party anthems into powerful blues-infused rock. Nikki Sixx poured his remaining demons into lyrics that were no longer just about fast cars and cheap whiskey, but about personal survival. Months of intense isolation in Canada pushed every member to the absolute brink of a nervous breakdown. Fights still erupted in the control room, with gear thrown across the floor and threats of permanent resignation hanging in the air. Yet out of this pure chaos, a masterpiece was slowly taking shape note by heavy note. When the resulting album, Dr. Feelgood, finally hit record store shelves in September 1989, it changed rock history forever. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, proving that the supposedly dead band was more powerful than ever. Tracks like Kickstart My Heart and the title track delivered an adrenaline rush that captured the hearts of millions of fans worldwide. The old Mötley Crüe of drug-fueled self-destruction had officially died in the winter of 1989. In its place rose a focused, highly professional stadium juggernaut ready to conquer the entire decade of the 1990s. They proved that rock and roll resilience isn't just about surviving the fall, but about having the courage to rebuild your sound. Critics who predicted their immediate downfall were forced to eat their words as the album achieved multi-platinum status. That fateful year proved that even the most chaotic, self-destructive legends can rise again from the ashes if they face the truth. The night Mötley Crüe died was ultimately the very night they immortalized their legacy in the annals of rock and roll. And rock music would never, ever be the same again.